bringing you conversations with leaders within the operating room and healthcare community. This is Scrubbing In.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Scrubbing In, a podcast powered by SpecialtyCare. I'm Todd Schlosser, and my guest today is Chris Foust, Marketing Manager for SpecialtyCare. In this episode, we talk about the importance of building an authentic brand in healthcare and how data and creative must work together to create effective marketing. It's a philosophy called, you know what, I'll just let him explain it to you. Enjoy. Welcome to the Scrubbing In podcast powered by SpecialtyCare. I am joined today by Chris Foust, who is the marketing manager at SpecialtyCare, and he is joining with us today to talk about his theory on really branding or marketing that he refers to as brutally honest branding. So let's talk a little bit about that. What exactly is brutally honest branding, Chris?
Well, it's a really simple philosophy that any business can really take on, but it's mainly focused on being authentic, being real in your messaging. It's about, stop lying to your customers, stop lying to yourself about who you are, and get real. The more authentic and real that you are as a brand, the more likely you are to engage customers and engage the right customers.
Right. So if you're engaging, like a normal brand might be right now, if you're engaging a large multitude of customers, a lot of them may not have any interest in your product or what you're selling, right?
Well, right, and that honestly, that increases your CPA, your cost per acquisition.
Yeah.
Because you are not honed in on who your actual audience is. You're doing the old school shotgun approach.
Right.
And, that definitely comes from pre-1930s, 40s, 50s type of mentality. Before then, branding and authentic branding, it was based in relationships. You go to the corner store or you go to the barber shop.
Or door-to-door salesman were a thing.
Door-to-door salesman.
Yeah.
You didn't really buy a product as much as you bought into someone.
Right.
And that's a personal brand. That's you building the personal brand as the company. And as soon as radio and TV come along, things shift. And with that shift comes the power of the mega advertisers and the mega brands. They control the messaging for up until roughly the early 2000s.
Right.
They control the messaging. They tell the customer about what they should want.
So what happened in the early 2000s that changed that?
Creed.
The band? I'm out. I am out. Sorry.
Social media is
Yes.
really what blew the door wide open and kind of reversed the conversation and the power back to the customer.
Yeah.
Customers are able to talk immediately like they would in person, discussing what brands they like, what brands they don't.
They can also interact with the brand immediately. They can reach out to
they
Nike
can try
on Twitter. Sure. But Wendy's does a great job of that with their social media. They have people who respond immediately and are very funny and silly, some of it a little off color and maybe not right for every brand, but it really works for them in that space.
Well, that is their brand,
Yeah.
and they're embracing that. One really good example of brutally honest branding is Hardee's.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So for the longest time, Hardee's sold really, really unhealthy food, much like McDonald's
Yeah,
and
everyone
everyone
did.
else. The majority of those fast food brick and mortar stores, they're slinging healthy food now, or they're trying to give you the impression that they're slinging healthy food, but it's fast food.
Yeah.
People who want fast food don't want healthy food. They want fast food that tastes good.
Yeah.
So what does Hardee's do? They take a complete 180 approach and they start marketing, this is a huge burger. It's loaded with cheese. It's loaded with onions. Why not throw whipped cream on it? Who cares? But they market it as, this is unhealthy, but it tastes damn good.
Yeah. You're going to love it, but it'll give you diabetes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe it's pronounced diabetes.
Diabetes.
However, what Hardee's did is what every brand should strive to do. They took a good hard look at themselves and their industry, and they said, wow, okay, I offer a product that is not healthy.
Right.
But we're going to embrace that.
Yeah, they just told the truth about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it worked.
Yeah. It did pay off. So let me ask you, we're going to back it up a little bit because before you had mentioned you want to find the right customers. So how do you find the right customers and stop taking the shotgun approach to marketing? How do you hone in on your audience, not everyone?
It's a really easy answer, and it's data.
Yeah.
Data and creative have a very close relationship, closer than most people would like to admit. You can't just focus on data, which we'll talk about later, I'm
Sure.
sure. But you can't just focus on data or just focus on creative because you're missing a huge piece. But with data, if you have a website, if you have a Facebook account, if you have a YouTube account, you have the ability to find out who your users are.
Right.
And it's free. If you don't have a Google Analytics tracking code on your website, stop what you're doing right now and add it to your website.
Yeah.
It's a really easy way to find out who your customers are. So let's say that's a good place to start. Google Analytics, you can get a broad idea of who is engaging with your brand. Okay, well, let's go a step further down the funnel. Who is my client? So if you are tracking your client funnel correctly, you're tracking them all the way through the process. So that's first touch, that's the phone call.
So first touch may be them going to your website.
Absolutely.
Yeah, maybe them clicking on a banner ad on a site. That's like a first touch kind of thing, right?
Sure, or an ad on Content Network.
Sure.
It could even be a print ad.
Sure.
That leads them to your website,
Right.
or a specific landing page. So what you want to do is find out who is engaging with your brand and then how those people turn into customers. And you can really start to hone in on who is engaging with your brand, who your ideal client is. Find out who starts first touch, and then who becomes an actual client, and then who becomes a brand advocate.
Right.
Don't stop at a customer. Stop at brand advocate.
Right.
That one step beyond.
Yeah, because you want someone who not only buys your product, but talks about your product and shares your product with their circle, because that's free advertising.
That's your
So if
ideal
you can,
customer.
Yeah, if you can figure out how you turned that person into a brand advocate,
Do it again.
duplicate that.
Replicate it.
Absolutely.
And then when you've replicated, refine.
Yeah.
Then replicate, then refine.
Right.
And what this also does is it gives you a really clear picture of how your messaging and your creative should speak to the world. Once you have a very defined ideal client, you can speak to that person, because by that point, you know what they do, you know what they like, you know how old they are they male, female?
Do they like outdoor sports? Do they? Yeah, it gets so granular. You can focus on anything, really.
And ideally, what you want to do is you want to project a brutally honest version of yourself to those people. And if you do that, everything else falls into place. If you start off with a brutally honest message and you are honest about who you are and authentic about who you are, it defines everything else. It defines messaging. It defines social media presence. It even can define SEO and PPC. Those things become non-issues if you're authentic.
Yeah. So let me ask this, because a lot of people who are in maybe our age group, maybe a little bit younger as well, they say don't even see billboards on the highway anymore. Millennials are the best BS detectors out there. So if you aren't coming at them with some honesty, they're going to completely disregard you, and you really don't have much of a chance to come back from that if you leave a bad taste in their mouth. Like that's what the data has shown us with that millennial generation.
Well, not just millennials, but every generation since the millennials.
Yeah.
And it's only going to get worse.
I'm
right?
sure.
So,
because they grew up in a world so prevalent with ads.
I mean, think of all the high-dollar commercials and the glossy stuff that was sold to us via advertising and marketing. How much of it actually delivered?
Yeah, not much of it, if any.
Maybe Simon, the video game, or Simon, the handheld game.
Yeah.
Maybe that's probably about it.
Simon wouldn't make a very good video game.
Boop. All the millions and millions of dollars were pumped into these advertising campaigns to promote products and services that ultimately did not deliver. And what that did to client consumption is immeasurable. The effect that had on the marketplace, and not just with retail, but with services, with healthcare. And that's another conversation, is how healthcare needs to have a very honest look at itself. It needs to look in the mirror and say, what am I doing wrong?
Right.
How can I get this better?
So when it comes to data and creative, it's sort of a chicken and the egg situation. So which one do you start with? Like what comes first, the data or the chicken, the creative?
So in healthcare, doesn't matter what sub-industry you're in, you naturally have a lot of data. I mean, you just do. The nature of the business makes you collect a lot of user information.
Yeah.
And this is user information that can really dictate, where your messaging goes, where your branding goes. You can find out who is engaging your brand, how they're engaging it, and build a brutally honest branding around that data. So to answer your question, to me, it starts off with data. You can access Google Analytics, you can access AdWords, you can access your social information, like the Facebook insights, and really get an idea of who's engaging your brand. And once you have that persona kind of identified and really honed in on, take that and build your creative to speak to that person. Build your creative and your messaging to engage with them at the most brutally honest level.
Okay, so when you're doing that, you have to build, I guess, messaging around sort of opportunities that come up, right? So every opportunity can be an opportunity to brand something, but how do you decide what opportunities are worth branding or worth throwing your message around, stuff like that?
Well, it's simple. Every opportunity is an opportunity.
So literally
every opportunity.
Okay.
Every opportunity is an opportunity worth branding. And that can range from high-level stuff like your website, your social media pages and accounts, your YouTube, any type of engagement that you do from a corporate marketing level. But then let's take it a step further. Your employees. People are really, or have historically been very scared about letting their employees be brand advocates. And to me, that just boggles my mind.
Yeah.
If you're willing to hire someone, give them $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 a year, but you're afraid to let them talk for your brand, something's wrong.
Right.
In your priorities. And I think that it does come out of a fear of control. But if you properly train your employees and they are bought in your messaging, they're bought in on your branding. And if you are brutally honest about who you are as a company, that becomes a lot easier.
Yeah.
It's way easier to buy in a concept that's not BS.
Well, because then they know when they talk about it, they're not having to sort of lie about what they do or what their services are, how much they are, or whatever they are, because you've been brutally honest about that brand you've built. So all they have to do is tell their friends about it or share things on social, or not even really have like conversations or lunches with people, just like share a post that you post.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So let's go from a numbers standpoint,
Sure.
right? So if you're in a band,
right,
and it's hard to get 2,000, 3,000 fans, followers on social, right? That's hard to do.
It's hard to start, yeah.
Or if if you're on a podcast, you're starting a personal brand, it's hard to get those initial numbers, that base. Large companies have that base built in.
Right.
So don't block Facebook at work. Don't block Instagram at work. Let people spread how awesome your company is. And who's the easiest person to do that? Your employees.
Yeah.
Get your C-suite out talking. Get them presentations. Let them speak about what's going on. Let your directors present. Let your managers present. All of these things really can bolster, an honest brand.
Yeah.
And it's free.
Yeah.
Well, it's not free. You're already paying for it. You might as well get what you can out of it.
Yeah. But I mean, some of it is free. Like if you're posting something on Facebook, that didn't cost the company anything. And then if you're getting your employees to natively share that, you're not paying for them to share that other than their salary. I guess you could throw that in there. But, you're just getting them to share it and they're sharing it with their circle and they're like micro influencers on their communities.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Micro-influencing is huge. And once again, if you're presenting a brutally honest brand, that makes the engagement that much more exciting and that much more, easy to engage with.
Yeah. I've seen brands that will take employees that are not even like director level, but like maybe what you might consider your more frontline employees or right above that frontline employee, and they'll create stories around them. So like if someone got a scholarship to something that you as a company sponsored that, one of your employees did, you might do a little video or video series around that and then share that out because that's a feel-good moment that people can share. And your employees are much more likely to share it, and it's just much more likely to go viral in maybe a small sense or maybe even a large sense. So can you speak to the importance of creating that content through the creative aspect once you have the data and using that to bolster your brand.
Right. So it hasn't changed in a decade, and it's probably not going to change in the next 50 years. Content is still king. The disconnect is that people think they have to produce content for the sake of producing content.
Right.
So two things happen there. You get inauthentic branding because you're just trying to get stuff out the door.
Shotgun approach.
Right. And it's going to be sterile. It's going to be non-engaging. So why bother?
Right.
So, and then it's going to cost you money. You know, you're going to have to outsource copywriters. You're going to have to outsource graphic designers, most likely.
Right.
If you want to meet that demand or the demand that you think you have.
Right.
But why worry? Why spend the money when you already have a built-in content machine? Your employees, they're the ones that are out there, boots on the ground. They're the ones that make engagement. You know, I've done a lot of work in behavioral health care, and whenever I used to go to a facility to do rebranding, the first place I would go is the cook and the janitor.
Yeah.
Why? Because everyone knows who they are. They see them every day, and it's like clockwork. If you do any type of alumni or any type of discharge interview, it's always those two people that say, oh, that, you know, seeing a smile on their face every day made the difference.
Yeah.
You know, or seeing Chuck the janitor and having a quick conversation every day made the difference in my healing process. So who do you think has the wealth of engaging content? The janitor.
Yeah.
You can't tell me that if you asked your janitor, hey, how would you like a blog on our website, that he wouldn't jump at that chance. You're already paying for his services, and it gives you a really wonderful viewpoint, you know, from the customer standpoint. Like, wow, this multi-million-dollar company is letting their janitor write a blog. That is awesome.
Yeah.
You know, and what that does for your image is huge.
Yeah, because you're showing as a business, and you're engaging on a human level with your employees and your consumers, so they will no longer see you as just a business. I mean, you obviously are a business and will always be a business, but you're showing them that business is made up of people. Now, I guess everyone knows that, like logically speaking, but when I think of Nike, I don't think of any one person that works there. I think of LeBron James because that's their face, right? So, like, I don't think of, you know, I don't see them as people in a business. I see them as a athlete branded shoe athletic company, right? So right. I think it's just a good way to show your consumers that you are people. You're a business made up of people. And telling awesome stories through those awesome people is going to share how awesome your brand is.
What's the quote by Mitt Romney? Businesses are people?
Yeah.
In this case, and in this case alone, it is true.
Yeah.
Businesses are made up of individuals, and if you already employ these people, don't put them on a chain.
Yeah.
Let them loose. Like you said, they are your micro-influencers, and you are already paying them.
Yeah.
You don't have to pay them more to produce content for you.
No. I mean, and they're going to do it one way or another. And if you're not treating them well and are inauthentic with your branding, the stuff that's getting out there is not what you want.
Nothing makes or breaks a reputation of a business harder than employees.
Yeah.
You know, it's simple as that.
Yep.
And if you can get them on your side, it will pay dividends.
Awesome.
Both literally and figuratively.
Yeah. So let me ask you one last thing. So how does brutally honest branding, or just being honest with who you are and what you do, how does that affect kind of branding in the digital space?
So brutally honest branding really affects every facet of your digital marketing. But it does so in kind of in a way that's, if you're brutally honest in your messaging and you're brutally honest in what you are showing possible clients, it makes everything else irrelevant, right? You don't have to go worry about SEO. You don't have to go worry about PPC, because all of that starts with, you know, keywords and ad copy, which you literally do not have to worry about if you're honest in your messaging and your branding.
Right.
So let's say, for example, you know, that we get that janitor to write a blog. He is going to use your company's service lines just naturally, especially if you're honest on the get-go. You know, he's going to mention what services you provide as a business. He's going to obviously use the business name. So you're already kind of getting that SEO value, you know? So there's really no need to get psychotic about it. And Google is getting smarter and smarter every day. I mean, it's scary and exciting at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, they're starting to crawl videos, transcribe those videos behind the scenes, and pull out SEO keywords from videos.
So with that said, it's going to be really, really hard to, quote unquote, cheat.
Yeah.
And I think that's where a lot of people kind of tend to fall with SEO and PPC is they want to find ways to beat the system, to beat Google.
Right.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Good luck beating
You're not
Google.
going to do it.
You're not.
Because they're just going to change it.
Yeah. And they're changing it in ways to make Google almost into a person, into a real person. What would Google as a person look for? What would Google as a person want to engage with? And what they want to engage with is brutally honest brands and brutally honest content, things that are authentic and real. And as Google shifts into AI, which I'm sure it will soon if it's not already, you're just going to see more and more of that. So people that don't adapt this authentic mindset are going to be left behind. They're going to keep trying to want to cheat the system, and it's not going to work. It's already not working.
Awesome. So I think we're going to have to end it there, unfortunately. Let me ask you this before we close. Is there a place where our listeners can reach out to you and ask you questions or things like that? Or are you going to be speaking at any conferences soon or anything like that you want to plug?
Absolutely. Well, I will be speaking at Mental Health Marketing, and that is a wonderful conference.
And that's here in Nashville, right?
It's here in Nashville. It's at David Lipscomb University, July 27th and 28th, I believe.
Okay.
I believe you can Google search Mental Health Marketing Conference, and you will find it.
Awesome.
And you can also reach out to me at christopher.foust@specialtycare.net, and I will gladly answer any questions you have.
Awesome. Thanks for being a guest here on the Scrubbing In podcast. We appreciate you coming out and having a good time with us and teaching us about brutally honest branding.
Well, thanks for having me here. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for listening to Scrubbing In. Please take a second to give us a rating on your podcast app and subscribe so you won't miss out on what we have coming up. See you next time.